Welcome back to Beyond the Struggle. I'm Jason Blackledge. This is Jeff Monroe.
Hey, man.
Yeah, he says I have to introduce him every time. uh, so this time, Jeff, we were going to talk about how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
How did you and I wind up all the way to a podcast about treatment and recovery,
Right,
man?
right.
How'd you say it? How the hell did we get here?
How the hell did
man?
we get here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, how did we
Yeah.
end up working in treatment, you know? Cuz to me too, still to this day, it's just like blows my mind that this is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm able to help people that had the struggles that I went through,
That people want help from you?
well, yeah,
Is that like
yeah,
one of the
people
things?
actually want help from me,
Uh,
from working, from starting in treatment to being a counselor and to doing what I'm doing now in treatment just amazes me still to this day. It's like, I- I don't know really like how I can comprehend that sometimes. Is like I'm amazed that this is the longest job I've had
yeah.
in my entire life, right? So I've been with Woodlake probably going on 9 years now.
9 years. Wow.
9 years, with the exception of a little sabbatical I took and
Is
went.
that we're calling it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a sabbatical I took for about
Yeah.
3 months. You got to try to get your feet wet, you know, but yeah, man, like, how did we get here? How did I get here? Because never in a million years would I thought I'd be working in this field. Until I actually got here.
Where'd you start? Where was your start in the treatment industry?
Well, starting with Woodlake.
Yeah, like so. Woodlake's the only treatment center
Yeah,
that
well,
you've
I
worked
worked
at.
for an adolescent
I got
facility
you.
for a little bit too, but starting out in Woodlake, I started out as a tech.
Yeah.
Started out as a tech at Woodlake and just kind of gradually worked my way up because such a
Best
great
job. The best job in treatment. By the
right.
way,
Well,
like
you were a tech
I
too,
was a tech man,
you
and a
know.
terrible one. I
Yeah.
joke with you guys about that all the time.
Well, not only that, right? Let's just back it up because like how I got here is just crazy in itself. When I came to Baton Rouge from the big city of Monroe,
The
Louisiana,
big city
right,
of Monroe.
and made a decision to change my lifestyles, get sober and everything like that. I came to Baton Rouge and I stocked boxes at Walmart.
Yeah.
That was my first job in recovery is stocking boxes at Walmart. And after that, I went and worked on a pipe yard for Coburns, and
Okay.
drove a forklift around, and
Mhm.
little by little, through meeting people in recovery and in treatment and stuff like that, little by little, the people that I've met just aligned right with just the right ones.
So you never had that. You weren't the guy that was in treatment that was saying like I'm gonna go. I'm
Oh,
gonna be. Oh, you
absolutely,
were. Okay. Okay.
absolutely.
All right.
I think everybody, when they go through treatment, like I want to
Yeah.
be a counselor.
I'm gonna be a counselor.
Until they go try to be a
Yeah.
counselor, and they're like, I don't want to be a counselor.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, man, it's crazy. Starting out in this field and kind of being to where I'm at today is just amazing because like they say like that whole thing to be, oh, you never work a day in your life as long as you love your job.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but like
Right.
I don't know if that's.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, for me it is in a sense because I do
Yeah.
love what I'm doing. I don't think I'd be with a company or in a job for as long as I have been without having some love
Hmm.
for it. And the love comes from, helping the people that, you know, struggle with the things that I struggled with,
Yeah.
you know?
And so you started as a tech.
Mm-hmm.
You've done it all.
Yeah, I've done a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you've
I
done it.
have.
You've been all of it,
I
huh?
have been all of it,
Tech, counselor.
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Okay. Counselor, facility manager,
Yeah,
all the things. I know all the areas of the treatment business,
from
which,
top to bottom, huh?
which is a great thing to know, because I have the ability to help not only those struggling, but to help people within the company and
Yeah.
do different things. But what about you? because it's the same thing. Did you ever think that this is where you would be?
I think no, I wasn't the guy until the last time that ever thought that treatment was
Where you would end up?
yeah, working in. And I've told this story before. I went to an education with Woodlake after getting out of I went to Woodlake a lot of times. You guys knew my name prior to me working here.
I can't confirm or deny
Yeah,
that, man.
and I remember after an outpatient services, after an education meeting, going up to Kevin, yeah, and I told Kevin, I said he had shared part of his story about going through the treatment center he went through and going back to work for that treatment center. And I went up to him after, and I was like so inspired by this story, and I told him, yeah, I'm gonna do that, and he was like, okay, buddy. Like, yeah, like, all right, yeah, like picking up his stuff to go, And I just kind of remember thinking then, man, maybe this is something that I could do. Maybe this is something I could be good at, And yeah, I started just like you. I started as a tech, and I joke with some people in the company at Woodlake. I was not. I was not like in a spiritual place to be a tech for sure, man. That is not an easy job.
It's not, man.
It's
I
not.
mean, the thing about some of the positions in treatment, is like, the dealing with the clientele.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And in the tech position particularly, you're around the clients literally 24/7.
All the time. Face to face,
so
all the time.
That actually, to me, those that are in that position and kind of go into a clinical position have a lot of experience dealing with the clients too, So you are able to have more of insight into, when they come in a group with you and be able to relate with them a little bit more,
Yeah, and then even, man, for probably the first 2 years I was at Woodlake, this is shout out Miss Wendy. This is the I really thought they were gonna fire me just about every day. Like my job,
right?
Now they like to mess with me and say,
bring you in the
bring
office.
my pinks every time I would come, because the reason is there's no way that like I could still be doing this job. I joked and always said, like, they used to kick me out of these facilities, and now I work at one,
Yeah.
and it's still, at times, man, but at times I still think, how crazy is this? Like we said, how the hell did I get here? Like doing this job,
Man, one of the things that I look at when I see where I'm at today, even working in the treatment industry, and for as long as I have been, I can still see like how my path was like, I guess veered towards this. I could see like where God like worked in every little piece of it to get me to where I'm at. And it's like I said, the people that I met along the ways to get me here,
Yeah.
and the relationships that I built, I was the same way, like you, as I wanted to be a counselor when I get out, but never did I think that going into being a tech would have led me to where I'm at today within the company that I'm in, with Woodlake, and the fact that we have so many people within the company too that came from the same place.
Yeah, a lot. A lot of people that I work with were clients. A lot of them at Woodlake. They give the opportunities. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and I think they make the most loyal employees as well.
Yeah.
Being on this side of things too, the administrative side, you see those that went through and seen the program work for them. They're also an example of like the experience, the strength, and the hope part of it is like, hey, this is, I dealt with the same things you did. Clients are like, you don't know what I'm going through. I kind of do.
Yeah, actually, I came to this exact facility.
I did the exact same
twice.
thing. Right?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think it's crazy. What did you do before you got into this?
Oh man.
Not even not even the tech portion, but before even doing that.
You know, man, I was kind of the same thing, bounced around. I did have the same job for a few years. Look, it was a great job. I loved it. It was a fun job. I did like high end detailing on
Hmm.
vehicles, um, and so you know, we get to play with cool cars. You know, when I got out of treatment, I cleaned toilets,
Hmm.
literally,
Okay.
literally. I went to work for a lady that owned a house cleaning company, and I was the low man on the totem pole,
Hmm.
and so I did bathrooms.
You did
I did.
bathrooms.
I was on bathroom
Yeah.
duty, and so I cleaned toilets. But it was great because it gave me the opportunity to focus on what I needed to focus on right out
Hmm.
of treatment.
Oh, absolutely. You know, those are the things I'm grateful for too. I couldn't have been happier working on that
Yeah.
pipe. Look, I got a great tan working on that pipe yard. I didn't have to think about anything. I could focus on my recovery. I could focus on doing the things that I needed to do, clear up the wreckage of my past
Yep.
early in recovery. For me, I only worked there for 6 months. I broke my ankle in half on the pipe yard,
Wow.
which is another thing that led me into the area that I'm in right now.
Yeah.
From some of the people I met, couldn't work there any longer, had to go into an office setting, and I met somebody else that worked in another area of treatment, just kind of passing by. So just little bits and pieces like led me to that direction.
And I guess that is going to go into my next question for you, man. Is that how have you been able to, which I'm sure you have, but talk about how did your past experiences give you the ability, the tools, whatever you want to call it, to be able to work in a treatment industry, to be able to help other people? Um, have you connected that stuff yet? Have you? Do you have? Do you? Do you see where all this damage, all this stuff, and now I can go relate to people. I can share it with people. I can do this. I can help.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes without saying.
Yep.
You got to have the experience to be able to
Hmm.
help others, so you understand what they're going through.
Yep.
But also not only that, but you know, the positions I've kind of been in has been in management type positions within this company as well. But before that, I'd always been in some type of role of supervisor, or believe it or not, right?
Yeah. I know, right?
Depending on, but I've always had that. So that experience kind of helped go along with my progression and in the company as well. Just having that experience of managing people,
Yeah.
right? But you know, managing people in this business is a little bit
Yeah,
different
for
too.
sure. It's a lot of personalities. I know that was one of the things that I went to a lot of treatment centers. Man, I don't mean to sound like a broken record when I say that all
Hmm.
the time. It's like, but
Did you go to a lot?
I did a lot of treatment centers. But I remember like the last time my counselor telling me, he was like, yeah, it's like having a counselor in group.
Hmm.
And I don't think that that was a compliment. Like the
Yeah.
fact that like you've done every assignment, you've done all these things. But now I see how that's been a tool that I've been able
Hmm.
to use working in this industry. I can't use a ton of treatment centers,
Hmm.
uh, doing ceramic coatings on cars. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And it was like one of those things to be able to look back, and now it's kind of that surreal. You talked about God and like seeing
Hmm.
this thing of like this plan.
Hmm.
I wish the plan would have been about 8 years shorter. That
Right.
would have been
Right.
that would have been a lot nicer. A lot more comfortable, less pain on my end. But on the other side of it now, being able to see like, okay, maybe this
Hmm.
was the plan the whole time.
Yeah.
Was to be able to.
Well, I think that's part of that consciousnn of the awakening.
Yeah,
Realizing that's the plan and this is the outcome that it is supposed to be for me. I remember, if you don't mind me saying this, I remember you actually talking about that, of what you wanted to do with your life and going into counseling
yeah,
too. And I think I kind of was like the same way. Okay, I think you should. I
yeah,
think you'd be great at it
yeah.
because you like to control the room.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
what can I say, man?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like to talk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Since hence the podcast thing here. Like
You don't think anybody would be confused
no,
about that.
not at all, man.
I mean, do you love what you're doing?
Yeah, I do, man. you know, I am grateful for the opportunity. I still, like I said earlier, I still think it's wild that a company,
Mm-hmm.
people, all this stuff look to me to provide other people with assistance,
Care.
care, yeah,
Right.
whatever, experience, and the opportunity to do that, help people. I love it, man.
Mm-hmm.
I love this job in that sense. Obviously, it's different from recovery.
Mm-hmm.
It is my job.
It is your job,
I
and
get
you
paid
got to
for it.
keep those separate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But it's great to see the other end. It's great that look, man, if those people weren't there before me, my last counselor,
Mm-hmm.
you were my counselor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like there's in having those people in my life that affected me, that were there, that helped when I
Mm-hmm.
needed that help. Is and so to be able to do that, it's surreal, but I do like it.
I
I
think
like what I
it's.
do.
I think the biggest part about, like you were talking, is surreal, is the people that you were that treated you are now you're real close with, like
Yeah,
coworkers,
coworkers,
friends,
friends.
those type.
Yes, yeah,
So it's like I don't know whether to call them ma'am or sir, or call them by their
yeah.
first name.
What?
That's one of the biggest things you struggled
Yeah,
with
at first I
at the
still I
beginning.
still call my boss Miss, because
Yeah,
like she was my, and she tells me all, for 2 years she said, stop
yeah,
calling me Miss, stop
yeah.
calling me Miss. Um, funny story, man. I'm gonna tell this story about Jeff in his office. If you walk into his
Mhm.
office, has a coffee mug
Yeah.
with a with with a picture on the front of it of my last intake
Yeah.
picture, just as a good old reminder.
Well, I send that to you every day on your
Yeah,
sobriety day
yeah,
too. Send
yeah,
you a
man.
picture just so you
Uh,
remember where you came from.
that was a white elephant Christmas
Yeah,
gift from somebody, wasn't it? I
yeah.
always forget about it. Yeah, man, it is wild. It's wild that I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people that helped me along the way, and it is strange, and I
Mhm.
don't think they're gonna fire me anymore. Even though
Hey,
I had that
look.
little hiccup last week, I had to reach out. Every one of my passwords
Mhm.
to everything
Yeah.
was not working,
You're
and
like,
I
did they
finally reached out to the IT guy and I said, "Are we
dismiss?
sure they didn't
Yeah.
fire me?" But I have gotten over that fear, getting into. I mean, man, I've been not nine
Mhm.
years, but I've been with Woodlake for going on 4 now,
Mhm.
starting through, same thing, man. Tech, went from tech to doing a lot of computer work,
Assessments and
yeah,
stuff.
all
Yeah.
that kind of clinical, and then a counselor,
Yeah, we
for a
love to
few
hire.
years.
We do love to hire from within, especially those that know Woodlake and know that one, they were able to be helped,
Yeah,
right, and that they have the opportunity to help others, and like I said, 9 times out of 10, they've been the greatest employees we've
yeah.
had. What? Let me ask you this, real quick. What was some of your biggest fears, like, you know, getting into this industry and then becoming a counselor, and like, how did you cope with that at first?
I didn't.
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
cope with. I think if I could sum it up in one word, was qualification.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this idea that I wasn't qualified to do this
Oh
job.
yeah,
I was a
right.
qualified, drug addict.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
qualified, and it was like getting over, when you talk about it, it was, and again, man, even working with Woodlake, I had some people there that were much smarter than me, that helped me to kind of understand still some of the struggles I
Mm-hmm.
was having.
Yeah.
And that, like, look, man, if you weren't qualified, they wouldn't have hired you to do this. If they didn't think that you could, if, like you said, management, administration, this and that could
Mm.
could do this job, they wouldn't have
Yeah.
offered it to you.
Well, I think I think it's just kind of this human aspect of it, of like always having some doubt within yourselves of like, can I do the job? Do people think I'm doing the job that I think I'm
Yeah,
doing? Right. So there's always this little bit of doubt, like, am I really doing as well as maybe other people think, or do they
yeah.
not really believe that,
And I see that a lot now, man. It's like, um, seeing at people, the more people that have come in and see them
Mm-hmm.
go through the same things that I went, and now I just kind of like, oh yeah, like,
Yeah.
but I see it. Like I was there. I went through that. Try to be of the support, like I just
Mhm.
got done saying, people supported me throughout the thing, throughout the process. But yeah, it was just that qualification. Could I do this job? I will say, I thought being a counselor, man, going through the schooling, going through the supervision, and I just thought, man, like I'm going to be out there saving lives,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
And
Right.
2/3 of my job is just sitting in front of a computer.
Yeah.
like,
Right.
like
Yeah. That's what
it's
I'm
a
saying.
lot of
Everybody's
computer
like,
work,
I want to be
man.
a
Like
counselor,
a
man.
lot of
Because
documentation.
as a client, all you see
That's
is the
it.
counselor coming in and doing
Like,
group, right,
yeah,
for
drop
3 hours a day.
knowledge and
There's three hours of that day, and then the rest of it's doing
just
that.
a lot of sitting in
But
front of a computer.
look, and I used to love doing group, no doubt about
Yep.
it, man. I love being in there. I love seeing guys' eyes open up when you really confront them with some truth,
Yep.
and they're like, "Okay, you're an asshole
Yeah.
for telling me that," but
Yeah.
it was all it was all for your benefit. Well, not you in specific, but kind of you too. You probably said that about me as well.
I
But
still say
just
that. I see
yeah,
what you
right.
mean. Like,
But just to kind of see them open up. Now, the other part of that is one of the reasons I don't like it is all the paperwork,
yeah, it
right?
is. It's a lot.
But it's still very what's the word I'm looking for? It- I still love the
Yeah.
aspect of being in there with a group of guys or girls, whatever the case may be, that are looking at you to help provide them with some answers to what's
Mhm.
wrong with me. What's the deal? Well, you know, I can only help guide you. Just to be a guide is a great part of it.
And now, and now we're making a podcast
Yeah. Right.
about treatment and recovery and
Mm-hmm.
and all of that. I still think, if like it's just crazy to look look at this. It goes to that next part of like, who would want to? You want me to talk? Sure, I love to talk. We
Yeah.
can do that. But who? Like, are we sure that they
Yeah.
want you and I? Like, are we sure about that?
Yeah.
And like we were talking about this, earlier. How the hell did we get here, man?
Mm-hmm.
Like this, you know, starting, at kind of the bottom of the barrel in this industry, not even ever expecting to be in this industry.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ending up here
and sitting here
together,
on a
sitting here doing it
podcast,
right. Yeah.
talking about
Hey man, life is full of crazy
it
adventures,
is.
man,
Yeah,
and like this is just one of the adventures we're on. I'm glad that we were able to do this adventure together as
sure.
well. Because that says something within itself. Based off mine and your relationship
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
well.
Hopefully they let us keep doing this.
Yeah,
Man.
well, we'll see.
Like
Yeah,
so. All right. Well, thank you, man.
yeah,
Thanks
man,
for, like you said, thank you for doing this with me, man. This is
absolutely.
exciting. Um, so yeah, guys, thank y'all for joining us again today on this episode of Beyond the Struggle. I'm Jason, and I'll introduce
You
this
do
is
that
Jeff again. Yeah,
Thanks.
you're welcome, man.
All right.
Y'all have a good day, man.